Is this a year where Caleb Williams can legitimately win MVP? Well, one national analyst is putting a big words behind betting on Caleb Williams to win MVP. We'll talk a little bit about that and what Caleb needs to do to make that a reality to happen for this team. We're also going to talk about Caleb Williams entering the elite conversation, Logan Jones, and how he is already prepped to take over that center position, and we'll see if he can do that. We're going to do that, plus predictions, an article that predicts the production for each of the Chicago Bears players on the offense heading into 2026. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And we want to start off with this article that predicts Caleb Williams to win MVP. I think this is a big case. Like, there's a lot of, depending on where you are with Caleb Williams, there's a lot of different kind of views on what Caleb Williams can be in year three, right? You have some that are, that are against Caleb and think that Caleb Williams is, overhyped, especially after the Madden cover and all of that. Well, Kay Adams, one of the hosts of the Up and Adams show, was talking a little bit about Caleb Williams and his ability to win MVP next year, and he said this: Dark horse MVP, I don't know why he's a dark horse. Caleb Williams, ever heard of him? I just want to show his footage and remember these amazing highs we got from Caleb Williams. The aura is off the charts. Chemistry is building. Confidence is building. Got better every game. The talent's there. He was working miracles last year. Everything we're hearing out of Chicago is how he's been getting more comfortable and more confident with Ben Johnson this offseason. He's dialed in. As great as he was last year, I do think the ceiling is much higher. I see people point out completion percentage and some of the areas of improvement like it's a bad thing. What is wrong with you people? He won 11 games, pushed for a Super Bowl despite all of that. Can you imagine what it would look like if he cleaned that stuff up? Caleb Williams plus 1,500, I'm all in on that. There has been a lot of talk about Caleb Williams' completion percentage. For me, from Caleb Williams, from Ben Johnson, of course from the national media, right? And that seems like the one thing that he needs to clean up, because I think with better completion percentage, and that from him taking the gimmies, the wide receivers not dropping the passes, it will help put Caleb Williams in elite category last year. You look at the gimmies, just the gimmies that Caleb Williams, missed last year. You're talking about somebody who easily probably has 4,100 yards, something like that. You pairing that with the better drops, Caleb Williams is right there. He doesn't turn the ball over, which is a really good thing. But, all this talk, I will say this. The talk about the completion percentage is great. The talk about the MVP is great. But you know what this all makes me just kind of focus more so on? It's just win some damn football games. Like, let all the national media narrative and the narrative on who can win MVP, who can't win MVP, let all of that, that's going to be there. And there's nothing that we can really do about that one way or another. It's going to be there. It's always there. And that's just not going to stop. It's going to be there one way or another. That narrative isn't going to go anywhere. But it all comes down to this. Nobody's going to be talking about you with MVP if you throw for 4,500 yards with 7 wins, right? So it all comes down to this team winning football games. And that's what it all has to be. Like this, the offseason speculation, the talk about MVP, it's great. And it's fun to have a guy that's in that conversation that people are looking at and saying has the capability of doing that. For so long with the Bears have not even been talked about in that sense. But it still comes down, like, you guys know how I feel about the national media when it's negativity. I'm starting to get to the same place with the national media, even with positivity. And that's no knock on anybody, but I want to see it all done on the football. The football field is going to be the great divider. It's going to expose everything, what's right, what's wrong, what's fiction, what's narrative, what's flat out hate, and what's real. That's what it really comes down to. And that's what it seems like. And that's what I got to give pride to, what it feels like this team is focused on. Yes, Ben Johnson has talked about Caleb Williams' completion percentage and put forward a challenge for his quarterback. But you know what everybody in the Chicago Bears organization is talking about? And what I love is that what they need to do to win football games. It's not about the I, it's about the we. I think that's an important part of just, you talk about culture building, you talk about getting over that hump as a team, you talk about taking that next step, getting to that next level. That is one of the most important things. It's not about whether Caleb Williams can win MVP or not. It's about, can the Bears win enough football games to where that conversation then makes sense? Because that's all. I don't want to go into the season worried if Caleb Williams is going to be an MVP talk or not. I don't want to go into the season worried about is Colston Loveland going to win Offensive Player of the Year or not. I don't like. All that stuff's great, but you know what makes that more fun? When you're winning. Now, I know we're not playing football games yet, and we're in the midst of silly season. This is where all the talk about this stuff really becomes at the forefront because we don't have actual football to talk about. But at the same time, man, I think I look at this and I just say, this just really makes me excited because to me, if you're talking about Caleb Williams winning has a chance at MVP, that means you think this team's about to be a winning team. That's the part that is more interesting for me. That's the part that I want to have conversations with Bears fans about. I love the fact that we're, as a team, we could say, hey, how many games do you think we're going to win this year? Instead of, how much are we going to lose? How high could our draft pick be? Are they prepared for that? Like, I think Bears fans need to remember we aren't too far removed from coming into the season and being like, damn, can we just not lose 10 games this year? Like, that's the part that we are very, very still close to not being far removed from that. And so that's the part about it that gets us all excited about me. We can speculate. He can be the dark horse. He can be whatever, like the favorite. That doesn't matter because it means that there's at least some level of expectation externally, internally, and throughout our fan base as well that the Chicago Bears are a team that can really win some football games. Now, they're going to have challenges ahead of them. The most difficult schedule, that's going to be there. Can they stay healthy? Those are legitimate questions that you have to ask here. But, hey, when it all comes down to it, are we winning or are we not? All that other shit, Pro Bowls, All Pros, MVPs, postseason awards, all that would take Players of the Week. All that shit would take care of itself. Are you winning? And how consistently and what level are you winning at? That's the part that I really want to have the conversation about for the Bears, and let's see if they can get it done. With that said, this offseason, though, has put a spotlight on a number of players, right? For good and for bad reasons. And I want to talk a little bit about that on this episode, right? We just talked about Caleb Williams. Of course, Caleb Williams, the Iceman, the comebacks last year, the 11 wins, the 1 playoff win, the Madden 27 cover, all that type of stuff. The thing that we're hearing about, the grasp that he has on the offense, Caleb Williams, of course, has one of the biggest spotlights on him heading into the season because, again, people are just talking about him potentially being in the conversation for MVP. So you best believe all eyes are on what Caleb Williams can do as a quarterback coming into the season, and they should be. You are a starting quarterback in the NFL. What does that mean? That means that the weight is on your shoulders, right or wrong. What the Bears do win-wise, what they do loss-wise, it all comes down to people looking at that as being a representation of how good of a quarterback Caleb Williams is. And yes, and for what it's worth, it seems like he's ready to accept that challenge, and he realizes that, and people in the building realize that. So one of the biggest spotlights, of course, is on Caleb Williams. That's why we talk about him so much. And it goes hand in hand with that is Ben Johnson as well. This is Ben Johnson's team, right? And while some Bears fans have some crazy conspiracy theories on how much control Ben Johnson has on the draft and stuff like that, the fact is that under year one of Ben Johnson got this team to 11 wins, a playoff victory, and for once, it seems like the Bears are moving in the right direction. But as the head coach, much like being the quarterback on the team, it all comes down to you. Whether it's offense, whether it's defense. The one thing that I give credit about Ben Johnson for doing is that even with him being still the offensive play caller, he has a better grasp and a better understanding on, as a head coach, you have to have your hands to some degree in everything and have a level of understanding with everything. And so a lot of that comes. We won the North, right? And of course, people like to use that take the North and never give it back thing, and we won a playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. And so what Ben Johnson is, and he's been one of the most boisterous people in this organization to say, hey, we got what we need here, right? We believe in these guys. We're going to coach these guys up better. We believe that we can make the necessary steps that we need to make as a team, as a defense, as an offense, all that type of stuff. We believe that we have what we need here. And if you believe that, what does that mean then? That means that you have to bring that consistently. You have to show that. And through you being the coach of this team, you gotta live that, my boy. And so we'll see if Ben Johnson can do that. Like you have to continue to take success a step further. And so because of that, Ben Johnson has one of the biggest spotlights on his team. And on the flip side of that, I'm going to say Dennis Allen does as well. And mainly because like the Bears didn't do something crazy with their pass rush. They brought in Jordan Vandenberg. They're hoping for maternal growth from Austin Booker. We know the story. We've talked about it. But for this team to truly make the next step, and while, we could say that they didn't make some big investment for the edge, we can't say they didn't make a big investment overall in the defense. Kobe Bryant, Devin Bush, Dylan Thieneman, Jordan Vandenberg, Keyshawn Elliott, bringing back guys like Jack Sanborn to this team, re-signing DeMarco Jackson, and hopefully having your healthy cornerback room here. If those things all come together for the Chicago Bears, this up to Dennis Allen to use that to the way that he talked about it. Dennis Allen is so important what the defensive backs do here now. And now we have, if they can stay healthy, the exact group that you need for that. Now, how do you take it a step further? So there's a huge spotlight on Dennis Allen as the defensive coordinator here to get this defense to at least be middle of the pack. 14-16. That's really what my personal standpoint of what I'm looking for. If anything higher than that, I love it. It's all money, right? But can you be 14th to 16? You talked about Dennis Allen was one of the, again, biggest voices saying, I focus too much on scheme. I need to get these guys ready for technique. Now, I personally think you shouldn't have to teach technique to professionals to some varying degrees, but hey, like if this defense is going to improve, it has to be through the things that I mentioned, and Dennis Allen is going to be the spotlights on that. Hell, we had, I think it was Darius. I'm going to put, as much I mess with Darius, I don't want to say, but I think it was Darius that like a few weeks ago called and was like, hey, hey, a lot of this is on Dennis Allen. Do we start looking at Dennis Allen funny if the defense, I think that's a little bit too soon, but it's a fair question to ask that eventually that's going to come into reality if the defense continues to disappoint. So Dennis Allen has a huge spotlight on him with his defense, as does the defensive line and as does a number of players. But it all comes down to Dennis Allen because, hey, you made improvements. And hopefully with better health as well, we see that improvement take another step further. And so let's see what Dennis Allen does. But then also there are some players that also have a spotlight put on them. Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. I'm putting them both here together. DJ Moore is gone. He's out. And we're looking for, and I guess Rome Odunze too. And we're looking now for that consistency in that wide receiver room. And so Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland, everybody here, it's such a spotlight now on these guys to show exactly what they can be and step up. DJ Moore was a big important factor for the consistency for this team. No matter what he did, no matter how many plays he did or did not get called, no matter how much his number was called, he always performed. And while the statistical output for him never looked crazy, we know that we know how important DJ Moore was to this offense. And so now that's gone. A safety blanket to some degree for both Caleb Williams and for these other guys are gone. Somebody has to step up. And so now between those three players, those are the natural three players you go to and look at who's going to step up in this group. Luther, Rome, Colston. Who's going to step up in this group? What can you give us consistently? And you can make a different case for all these guys. For Colston, Ben Johnson talked about he's the most consistent. Led the Bears in receiving yards last year and receptions on targets, all those type of things. Luther Burden, though, showed great growth throughout the season once he was trusted, and he looks like a player that definitely could be a favorite to Caleb Williams. And Rome Odunze started off the season on fire, got hurt, died off, and then, never really was back to what we look like, the breakout that we look like we're going to get to him. He has to show that beginning of that season was not a fluke. What does he bring for this team consistently? So that is there as well. And then I'm also going to say, flip side of that on the defensive side of the ball, Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon. You guys weren't healthy last season. And it's you guys are so important to Dennis Allen's system and scheme. How these guys perform is going to be hugely important to this team. And in that position of cornerback, you have Jalen Johnson, who's our lockdown corner. Malik Muhammad, hopefully, is going to develop into that as well. And then you have Kyler Gordon at the nickel, one of the best nickels in the game of football. And we know how Dennis Allen wants to scheme him, wants to use him in crazy and creative ways. And we just didn't have that. So the 1-2 punch of not having Jalen Johnson, not having Kyler Gordon really fully healthy at any point of last season, it definitely hurt the ceiling of what the Chicago Bears defense could be last season. And so now it's a spotlight on these guys because we know what you can be when you're healthy. The question comes about, can you stay healthy long enough this season to help the Bears in the way that we need you to help us the most? If you can't do that, what are you providing us? And that's what it comes down to for those guys. So looking at that, and then I guess the last group that I'll say is the running back room. This was one of the league's best rushing attacks last year. And so now, with coming into the year, knowing what we learned last year from Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift and how they bring that good balance, can you bring that to this team and bring it consistently, right? Can you be consistently what you were last year and maybe even take it a step further? Because it's a lot on this. The offense, we should still be a very run-heavy offense. And those guys and how they perform in that and in the passing game as well is going to be hugely important to what the Chicago Bears can do next season, and we're going to see. But another player as well that has a lot that people have talked about is Logan Jones and what he's going to be. He's been listed now as one of the most underrated rookies by ESPN. Jordan Reed of ESPN said this. It's uncertain whether Jones will see the field as a rookie, but Bradbury on the roster for 1 year, but he'll get a chance to compete for the starting job this summer. Even if he doesn't win the job as a rookie, Jones is one of the 5 most underrated rookies heading into 2026, where it's all about the long game. With Drew Dalman leaving, we all know that it put a spotlight on what the Bears are going to do at their center position. Now, they brought in Garrett Bradbury as a player that can be a veteran that can start and that has a high floor, but the ceiling may not be as high. Logan Jones was one of the best, if not the best rated center in this draft. And so because of that, the expectation for him with this team is there are expectations. They're now, as a rookie, I never put like expectations on a rookie to be one of the best in their rookie year, but I don't think it's outside an expectation to say, hey, between now and the end of the season, Logan Jones needs to take over that starting position. Now, maybe Garrett Bradbury comes in and he performs so well with this unit as a whole. That's a nice mix between youth and veteranship that we look at it and then we say, hey, listen, Garrett is perfectly fine. Logan, we'll bring you along the way. We'll get ready for next year. I'll take all these reps and get ready for next year. But I don't think people are wrong for saying that they want to see Logan Jones start and they want to see him earn that starting position and come in here and fight for it. And, that's great. Drew Dalman was such a stabilizer for this team that you would love to see a young player be the one to replace that, especially, as the center is the only player that touches the ball every single snap. Every single snap, the center is going to touch the ball, right? There are some possessions where the quarterback doesn't touch the ball on a snap, right? If you're doing something trickery. So the center is going to have to touch the ball on every single offensive snap that's not special teams. And so now, Logan Jones, there is a spotlight on what he can be, because if he takes over this role as a rookie, the future is very bright for the Chicago Bears, center position, and that's what we should all want in a case like this. So let me know what you guys think on Logan Jones being rated as one of the top underrated rookies heading into 2026, and then what are your personal expectations for him in 2026? And I don't necessarily mean like pressure rate, snap rate, or anything, or sack rate or anything like that. I more so mean like, do you have an expectation of him taking over this starting position in this season? Let me know that down below. Now, Anthony Miller, a writer for the Bears, made predictions for the Chicago Bears offense. And I want to talk about these, where I agree, where I disagree. I think this is just a fun exercise. For Caleb Williams, he has predicted going 317 of 528 on completions for 3,821 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, to go along with 32 sacks, 71 rushes for 382 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That passing seems very, very low to me. Very low to me. I don't know if this was trying to be conservative, but to set that as an expectation for Caleb Williams, no, I think the expectation has to be even higher than that, personally, for Caleb Williams in this second year. Maybe that's just me, but I think that Caleb Williams, for only 3,821 yards, no, we know that Caleb Williams is capable of more than that. We know that he's capable, if he gets that completion percentage together, to be a guy that can throw for 4,000 yards. So I don't get that one personally. But I will say this, if you're trying to do a more realistic expectation, okay, cool. But I think that Caleb Williams, even that touchdown to interception ratio, I think is going to be a lot better than what Anthony Miller is rating here. Next up, for the running backs, he has DeAndre Swift for 219 rushes, 994 yards, 8 touchdowns, 30 interceptions for 270 yards and 1 touchdown. He has Kyle Monangai for 192 rushes for 825 yards, 6 touchdowns, 26 receptions for 215 yards, and a touchdown. Now, this is great production from a dual threat running back room. It's great production. Almost 1,800 yards for a backfield. That's pretty damn solid. Now, do I think that it, much like with everything, it's more conservative? Yeah, but I do think that this is realistic, because there are going to be other players. You have Caleb Williams that's going to rush. You're going to have other players. Xavier Thomas is probably going to have a little bit in that. We'll talk about that when we come down to the receiver. But much like with the quarterback and Caleb, this just seems a little bit conservative. For the wide receivers, he has Rome Odunze with 59 receptions, 1,030 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Luther Burden for 75 receptions, 938 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Khalif Raymond with 265 yards, 1 touchdown. Jahade Walker with 6 receptions, 72 yards, and Xavier Thomas with 3 receptions for 38 yards. Listen, I don't think there's any way that Jahade Walker and Xavier Thomas only combined for nine receptions on the season. I don't believe it. I don't even know how you can predict that. I really would like to know, and this is where I wish I did actually interview people more, because I would really love to know what Anthony Miller's thought process was behind that, going that low for Jahade Walker and Xavier Thomas. Because me personally, I just don't get it. But hey, maybe that's just me. It is what it is there. You guys can let me know how you feel down below. And then on the tight ends, where I feel like he went the most conservative, he has Colston Loveland for 898 yards, 6 touchdowns. Cole Kmet for 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Sam Roush for 4 receptions and 34 yards. Now, I don't think that Sam Roush is going to get a lot of targets. I don't think that. I do think he's going to play a decent amount of snaps. And for 898 yards as a tight end, that is pretty much a lot. And maybe that's just me. But I do think that with Colston also lining up as a slot sometimes, I actually think Colston may eclipse 1,000 yards as a tight end this year. I really do think that. Between the added efficiency in our pass game with the better catches and Caleb taking the gimmies more, I think a lot of those gimmies are going to go to Colston Loveland. So maybe that's just my prediction or perception on it. But I'd love to hear from you guys on this one, on all the topics. What do you think about Caleb Williams' MVP chances? What do you think are some of the players that have the biggest spotlight coming on them into the season? Do you think that Logan Jones could win the starting position? And what are your predictions for the Chicago Bears offense? But I'd love to hear from you guys on that one down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.